Hi, my name is Joel Comiskey, and I remember coaching a pastor named Bill, who was a pastor of a Baptist church that had been around for 66 years, and he was number 30 on the list of pastors. So when he transitioned his church to cell-based ministry, he had to do it very slowly. It took a long time, but gratefully Bill did transition that church, and he stayed. As far as I know, he's still there. And so I'd like to talk to you about transitioning to small group-based ministry, how to do it from a traditional church and to make the transition successfully. Now, there are 3 stages of transitioning. The first one is the pre-transition stage, and that's what I'll be talking to you about in this video. But then there's the transition and then the post-transition. So as we think about pre-transition, preparing the ground, there are some principles that are important to keep in mind. And these principles I'm going to share with you are not in order. It's not a 1, 2, 3. But I think that they are important to implement. And the first one is that the lead pastor and team are leading the vision. You know, it's not enough for the pastor to have a vision. The vision must have the pastor. And what I mean by that is that the pastor must pray, dream, believe that this is the way that God wants the pastor to go, that this is biblical. Always remembering that theology breeds methodology. This is a biblical strategy, and when the pastor captures this and then can share that with the team and they can go together, it's a good time to make the transition. The other is win those with influence in your church. In every church, there are the movers and shakers, those who have paid the price. They've been around for a long time. They love the local church. And you need to make sure that they are on your side when you make the transition, pastor. And I like to tell pastors to, get a Starbucks budget. Get a budget to be able to take people out for coffee or to take them out for a meal and to just share with them in a loving way what you're trying to do, that this is biblical, this is New Testament, this is house-to-house ministry, and make sure those people are on your side. Otherwise, those people can resist the small group-based ministry once you're going. So it's important to have those people on your side from the beginning. Another important principle is finding the needs in your own church. Now, what I mean by that is, what are the holes in your church? For example, maybe there's a hole of community. There's not a whole lot of community in your church. You just go from Sunday to Sunday. Well, you can talk about then how that small group-based ministry will fill that need and people will be in fellowship. Maybe there's a lack of evangelism. Well, you can talk about how small group-based ministry is all about reaching out to our friends and neighbors. Another principle is learn from other cell churches. So if it's possible to visit a small group-based church that's doing it, that will help you realize that it's really possible. At least you can do is read about small group-based churches. It's always better to be there personally. And then also envision what you want to become. Now, I'm not talking about being idealistic. I know some pastors talk about, we're going to have 100 new groups in the first year. No, this is more dreaming about the possibilities of the future and then sharing that with the pastoral team. Now, there's a wonderful book out there called Diffusion of Innovations by Everett Rogers. I think it's in its 5th edition, and Everett Rogers is like the go-to person about how to make changes in an organization or in a church. And he lists various principles, and they're pretty easy to follow, but the first one is compatibility. And what Everett Rogers is talking about here is to try to connect what you're going to do with what the church is already doing. For example, perhaps the church is already very missional. We'll talk about how that the small group-based ministry will help you to become more missional. So, compatibility. The next word is advantage. It's important that the pastor talks about how that small group ministry will help the church become all God wants them to be. no pun intended, but sell the cell vision. Talk about why the cell vision will help your church become even more relevant, and you'll be able to reach out to those who don't know Jesus. The other word is observability. Everett Rogers talks about how that it's not enough to just give information. Key leaders want to observe what that change is all about. And I always talk about the importance of starting with a pilot group. Begin so that the key leaders can kick the tires. They can understand what this thing is all about. So observability is critical. And then change takes time. Bobby Clinton, my professor of a class in change dynamics, used to say that change will take longer than you think, even when you're planning for it to take a long time. In other words, it just always takes longer than you can imagine. That's how people are. They need to experience it, they need to grasp it, and then they'll make the change once they know that you're lovingly guiding them in the process, not forcing that change on them. Social relationships. This is another very important one. It's not enough to give people a book or to send them to a website. They need to know that you're willing to be a friend, that you're willing to guide them in the process as a friend. And so social relationships are just critical, that you're spending time with those doubters, that you're helping them to grasp it before you even start. And then reinvention. Even when you start and you're in the transitional stage, remember that you're going to reinvent what this is all about in your context. You're not going to be following a model. This will become your ministry. And so people are always wanting to reinvent, and that's an important principle of Everett Rogers. The role of leadership is to guide the process throughout the transition. It's a lot like flying in an airplane. You can't see the ground. You're in the clouds, but you have that control panel. You know that you're going to land safely. And when the pastor knows that this is a biblical strategy, that time is essential. Give the people time. God is going to do great things, and you are going to successfully transition your church. My book, Reap the Harvest, I have a couple chapters on the transition, and also in my website. Check that out. There are various articles on transitioning your church to the cell church model. God bless you.
If you like this video, please click on like and subscribe to our channel, but also check out the resources on our website.